Alright, hope you guys can see what's going on here. Sorry, the light kind of set it up to where it's visually, you can see it. You're just going to hear me talk. Not going to be much going on unless I... So, this is the going from idea to proof of concept on the Delphuino project I've been working on the side. Kind of want to go down or run through what I have set up here. This will eventually be going in my 92 twin turbo Corvette. So I just want to run through what I have here. This is a mess you see in front of you. The other one I'm working on is this right here. It's a little bit more compact, and the idea with that, if I can grab a blank case, here's one. This is a mess. This is a lot cleaner. So this is the idea. Like I said, the stuff you see here, I'm pretty much going to, like this will probably go in the Corvette. This will, if everything works, it'll just be like freaking hot glue, shove it in there, send it, and just deal with it. But this is something that, for like revision 2, what I like to do is cut the hole through there. That way you can program it, and then you have plenty of room for your relays and everything else. If you can see like the first rendition of just playing with some of this stuff, you can see I have one drilled out in the Uno. So there's plenty of room in these cases to do this. So let me go over what I have here, hardware that I'm still soldering together. I need to find some extra 22 gauge wire that I pull out of my connectors, but this is a wideband controller. It's from a company. If you can see it, I might just use this one. So this is a wideband controller right here. This is from a company called 14.7. It's like the number 14, the word point, and the number 7.com. They make a bunch of wideband controllers and like just plug and play stuff set up to either Arduino or like 0 to 5 volt stuff. I believe this stuff you can just use for like Terminator X. It's just do-it-yourself kind of stuff. But they're 35 bucks for the controllers, and I've heard a lot of good things about them because they've been around for a few years now, and they do a lot of open source stuff. So I bought 2 of these controllers, and they control a Bosch 4.9 LSU sensor. And that's perfect because they're even like a legit Bosch one you can get for about 35 bucks as well. So for 70 bucks, you can basically make your own wideband controller. And the output signal, so they have 2 versions of this. This is called a Spartan 2 OEM. They make 2 versions of this. They make a linear version, which is what I have here. I think they call it a linear version. And they make an I2C one. And the I2C is to talk to the Arduino. I don't get why you can't use this because the linear output from this is 5 volt. I think it's a 10 to 1 is 0 volts, and then a 20 to 1 is 5 volts. So you do your math, you program it to the Arduino, and then there's your AFR, and it's good within like the 10th of an AFR too. So they're pretty good, from my understanding. So we're going to try it, and what the idea is the 5 volt output will go to like the EGR 5 volt input on the PCM, and then you can go into like if you're using HP tuners, you can use the VCM scanner. You can go add the channel for EGR and then name it for your wideband, and then you have your wideband inside your PCM, and all you have to do is make a harness for it. I have a bench harness I use for flashing these PO1s and stuff, and kind of give it an idea because I'm going to be using this to test, and then I'll unpin it and plug it into my project. And so like here's this connector, and then like here you can see the 6 wires that go into a Bosch plug. So what it do is it run through here. It uses these unused leads that go to the PCM. They just go to the board. They don't do anything. They're not used. So I end up cutting them and then sliding the wire over on top of them, and then use those to connect to the controller, and then that way you can build your harness. Same thing with the MAC valve. The Arduino would control the MAC valve. I'm still working on that circuit here. I need to do a little bit more work to control it, but it'll basically just use a transistor to go from 5 to 12 volt, because I think these things only pull like 450 milliamps or something like that. Yeah, 5.4 watts, you can see it. So another plugged right into the harness. So that's the idea on that. And what I'm trying to do with that, with the Mac valve, now that we've already gone over the wideband stuff, if you have any questions, please let me know on that. The Mac valve will obviously be used for boost control. I want to get 4 pound, like 4.5 pound springs, excuse me, for my setup, because my car, my 92 Vet, is going to be a street strip car. It's going to be 90% on the street, probably more now, like 95% on the street. And then I want to do Rocky Mountain Race Week with it. It's always an event I've watched for the past few years that I really want to just try. It would be fun, and just set up a class to run it. And it's also nice because the Corvette is just a 5.3 small twin turbo setup, and it uses a 4L80. It's got a Dana 44 rear end, so my wife could, and it's stock the engine is stock, completely stock. Other than LS6 springs in it, just from valve float. I want it to set up to where my wife can just jump in and just go, but I also want to be able to flip this whole entire mechanism on with a switch, or if anybody really wanted to, you could just have it turned on with the ignition. I would like to have a switch on it, that way I can just keep it off. It just acts like a stock car, but when you flip it on, then this takes control, and then it would control boost. So this is a little map sensor that would also read, it'd be a fail-safe basically, but it's also for my gauges, which I'll go over too with the gauges. For the Mac valve, I'd like it to control boost from like basically spring rate of like 4.5 pounds to like 10 to 12 pounds of boost. The car, my goals for the car is to make 550 wheel max. If it makes anything more than that, I gotta start doing a lot more work, because I have all the parts in it to basically, like the fuel system and everything else, to just max out, especially in the OS, to max out at 550 wheel. In my opinion, that would be a safe spot, and it would laugh at you driving it. So to control the Mac valve, I would like to use this map sensor on here. I think these are very similar to what's in like the micro squirt. They're a MPX 4250 map sensor. They're a 2.5 bar. This is a 2 bar OS that I have flashed on here. It's a flex OS, and so with a 2.5, you kind of have that little bit of extra fail safe in there, because if you start going over 14, 15 pounds, you start getting to the part where your tables are gone, and then this will be able to continue to keep reading and be like, hey, you're over boost, let's open up that Mac valve, and you're going back to spring rate. And then based on what you set, it'd be like you have to turn the ignition off before it resets, or say, hey, it'll reset in 15 seconds or 2, depending on what you write. I mean, whatever you code into it, you can do whatever you want. So that's the idea on using the Mac valve, using the map sensor. But also for the map sensor is, I have the codes. Someone that online, I was kind of going down the rabbit hole. There's a guy online that has, I don't know if he still has it, but he had a Honda NSX, and he built an Arduino to do read boost and also AFR, and display it on a little like 16 by 2 LCD Arduino gauges. Here, let me grab my little gauge cluster that I'm making. Like these little guys, I don't know if you can see them. They're like 16 by, geez, dusty. Really haven't been working on this. Like 16 by 2 LCD gauges, and then you can program what you want, what the Arduino readout. These are actually I2C gauges, so all of these are run on 4 wires. Sorry, they're power ground, and then there's 2 data wires that feed all these. And I believe you can run up to like 25 of these, and just with those 4 wires. So it's great. You would have the 4 wires, basically your power and your ground, your 5V, and then you have your 2 data from the Arduino. So that's how I'm going to do my gauges on the Corvette, and then I'll make a separate one that'll be like on the side by the radio. That'll be a 16 by 2 to do AFR and boost, because I have that code. He actually sent it to me in an email, and he uses a 3 bar Honda map sensor but it's pretty simple where it can be changed for if you're using like a 2-bar, 3-bar, 4-bar, or even 5-bar. It's pretty simple to change it. The more you get higher, it seems that potentially that it would be less accurate. But anyways, the 2.5 work great. I'll program that in to my gauges. So yeah, other than that, I went over the wideband, went over the Mac valve stuff, the gauges, and then the relay. So I only have one here. I'm running out of, like I said, I'm running out with the setup, so I'm gonna have to figure out where I might have to pull this off and put it somewhere else, or they make a double board 2 of these, but this would be for 2-step. And there's probably a better way of doing this instead of a relay, probably like a MOSFET or something. But there's a guy in LS1 Tech that was going down the rabbit hole again, and he made his 2-step system using an Arduino and a relay. And what he did is he actually cut the whole ignition to the coils for a certain amount of time, and he actually has the math to do it, to where if he wanted like a 3,000 RPM limit, he could actually do the math in there. It would read the RPM level from the PCM. He actually had like your typical like single wire over one of the leads. I think it was like cylinder 1, and then he would read it, and after it hit 3,000 RPM, it would cut the signal, because it was on a normally closed relay. It would cut the signal, or not cut the signal, it would cut power, and then it would wait like 16 milliseconds before it turned back on. And that was the perfect amount to just continue to keep doing that, to where it was feeding it fuel, and he was keeping it at 3,000, and he had it. And you could actually adjust that to where if you wanted like a really heavy 2-step where it's like bum 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 bum, or if you wanted, a more subtle, like in my case, I don't really want to be shooting fireballs and stuff. I just want something when I hold the button down, it'll keep it at 3,000, and then I can foot brake it and get it up. I can start spooling the turbos, and then I just go. These turbos are very small, so it won't take much. I could probably foot brake it on the stock torque converter that is in the car, in the 480, and it would probably be just fine. So I do want to test that, but it would be nice if it's not, if I see like, hey, it's climbing up to like a pound and it's not going higher. It'd be nice to be able to have something to where you do that. But I'm probably gonna have to get a different torque converter, regardless if I want to do that. But it would be nice to have that incorporated. I know a lot of people would like to have that, so that's kind of like the last part of it. If I don't get that to work in my setup, I'm not really worried about it, but I would like to get it worked out, so if other people want it, I can just throw the information out and just like, hey, if you want to do this, this is totally up to you. Here's the information, here's what you need to get for parts, and that kind of goes to where if I get all this stuff worked out, I'd like to make a PCB that's a lot smaller, that incorporates this wideband controller. I'd still like to use their wideband controller. I don't feel like making my own, but also having like the either MOSFETs or relays on the board, having where you could plug in an Arduino Uno on it, and then have this where you can just plug it in and then just set it in here. Boom, you cut your little hole, and you're good to go. Or if really anybody wanted me to, I could just build you the PCM, give it to you, and be like, here you go, here's the instructions. I was talking about like if you were to put this on a switch to where you could just turn on and off, or you could have it with an ignition. You'd be like, hey, here's a jumper wire if you want it on and all the time. If you don't, you need to plug your switch into like this pin and this pin. So hopefully I didn't lose anybody with that. Like I said, it was an idea. Now we're going on proof of concept. So this is a side project. Whenever I get time, I work on it. But I'm really gonna get this in. I'd really like to get this into my vet and get it running. Because I already have everything set up for it. It's running on a PO1, it's running on a 2-bar flex speed density, set up the way it is. So once I get this going, I can just plug these little mini harnesses that I made directly into there, plug them in, and away we go. If you guys have any questions on this, let me know. Other than that, I don't have anything else. We're gonna keep going with this. And other than that, like these little multi-sensors and pressure sensors. I have my fuel pressure sensor out in the garage that I just put on my fuel rail, but like this is my oil and oil pressure and oil temp sensor that actually Matt gave me, that already has the pins on it, and that'll be part of it too, to where I can just plug it in and have it read the information to the gauges as well. So if you guys have any questions, let me know on that.